Burnout. What exactly is going on? How come I used to love something and now all I feel is this like negative energy? How come it feels like something that even when I used to love it so much, when I used to just look forward to every day, I wake up and I can't think of it. Now all I feel is dread, stress, and just not knowing how to handle it. What is this thing? I need to get to the bottom of this burnout thing, because I think out of everything I've ever had problems with, burnout has probably been my number one thing that has affected me so much in my life, to the point where couldn't continue things that were once really, really enjoyable. So I decided to deep dive into my burnouts. And because right now I'm actually going through a little bit of a mini burnout at the moment, I thought it's a perfect time to start. So let's go back in time. Okay, let's go back. This is about maybe 10, 15 years ago. The first time I experienced burnout was, well, I've had burnouts on and off for a very long time. And if it's things that I really loved, some of my greatest passions, no matter what it is, it has never been able to escape the burnout. It's like an inevitable fate that all my passions, all the things that I love doing, will become how do I explain this? Will become not as exciting, and I will no longer enjoy it as much. So let's start with my early experiences. Making web videos has not always been something that I've been doing. I've been doing a lot of other things, and this computer keeps turning off, so it's affecting the light. It's kind of annoying me a little bit. Let me just log in. No, I don't even logging in the right username. Excuse me, that's a bit of a distraction. So about a year ago, I started posting daily on YouTube, and I promised myself that this was going to be different. I am not going to burn out, because I'm going to find ways to handle it, because I knew that was something that is likely to happen. I get into something, get really excited for a year or two, and I burn out. So I looked deeply into everything that has burned me out. And it feels like the common thing that affects me is stress. Even though a lot of the stress is self-inflicted, it's still stress. It can be because of other people, it could be my own stress, it could be a combination of my own stress with other people's stuff as well. So it really is all about how I handle situations, and I discovered that I don't handle situations I don't handle situations very well, because I tend to go down to this hole of wanting to make people as happy as possible, as in I am a people pleaser. That's part of my personality. So we've established the trait that when you're a people pleaser, you get anxious really easily, you get stressed easily. That is like the perfect storm or brewing for burnout, because you likely want to please people. You likely want to do things that people really, really enjoy or something, and then you're likely going to stress about it. So no matter how much you enjoy something, if you're stressed, you're not going to do it for very long. At least that's my experience. Let's go back into the very first time I experienced it. I think back in the day, I used to make websites, right? I made a lot of websites, and even though I kind of went on and off, the website that I really burned out was maybe about 10 years ago. I had a food blog, which I did 2 recipes a day. Wow. I can't even believe I pressure myself to do that. But then again, I can believe that, because that's just how I've been. I kind of go on a high. When I go on a high, I'm very active, as in hyperactive, very excited, very eager. I do a lot of stuff, more than usual, more than what the average person is likely to see as a good amount of things to do in a day. So I'm pushing it a lot. But the problem is I seem to be all about keeping to that consistency. So even if I'm running out of ideas, I'm telling myself, you gotta continue. you don't crank out those 2 recipes a day, you're screwed and life is over. So that's what I tell myself in my head, subconsciously, not something that I can physically control. And you know what my mind thinks? It's like, oh no, but there's not that many recipes, but I've exhausted all my ideas, but there's like nothing, like there's no ingredients. But what if like people don't like the recipes? What if they don't do well? What if what if the photos don't turn out well? What if I don't have the props I wanted for the photography? Because back then we did a lot of photography for that. So my thoughts of fighting my subconscious, who's like saying, you gotta do those 2 recipes a day or else. Well, let's just say that I did it for as long as possible, which was around 2.5 years. I think I consistently did 2 recipes a day. I don't know how I did that. But then again, guess what happened? I moved countries at the time. I moved countries. And during the big move, all these things happened. We changed measuring spoons. We changed measuring tape. No, not measuring tapes. We changed measuring spoons. We changed the oven from like the way the oven is degreed. It's like we changed basically how I was used to with the measurements and stuff because we changed countries. And because of that, my stress told me, you know what? This is the most perfect opportunity for you to just quit altogether because you are stressed out of your mind. You are so stressed you can barely even function. You are so stressed that you can't even do things. You are so stressed that you have been not enjoying your weekends, not enjoying this, this, and this, and this, and this, and this. There you go. Opportunity. And I took it. That's what I did. I was like, okay, cool. Then I shut down the food blog. It's a shame because there were some really, really good recipes on that bloody blog. And for some reason, someone, I don't know who it was, they actually saved part of my blog and they actually put it up. So the blog is still up there, even though I'm not the one hosting it. They just kind of took all the things that I had, including a lot of the photography, which is interesting because never thought I would see it again. I still have like the HTML whatever codes or whatever that I use, like the database file that I used to have, the WordPress stuff. Still have it, but I never touch it again, and I didn't want to do anything about it. And during this time I was like, why am I not as successful as other food bloggers? Why do they get all this like opportunity? How come they have all this stuff published? How come they have all this stuff in magazines? How come they're getting so freaking popular and here I am not getting anywhere? Well, because I quit after 2.5 years, that's why. I was getting somewhere. I was actually really going far. If I had continued, I would have been seeing a lot of more success about it. But I gave up because I burnt out. Like I always do. And when I look back on the situation, it was like my own doing, my own demise. It was really because I forced myself to do all these recipes because for some reason I had it in my head that if I didn't do 2 recipes, everyone's going to be too pissed off and I'm going to be screwed and my life is over. I don't know who told me this, even though nobody really did. I just kind of put it in my own head. Why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we put this pressure on ourselves? People don't care that much. Like, seriously. I think this is a very important lesson for all of us, including myself, to learn. People don't care that much. Like, we just have to, like, just say, okay, today is a slow day. Let's just, like, take it easy and not bother with it. But for some reason, my brain cannot handle not doing something for one day. It feels like I'm just quitting altogether. And because of that, it makes me quit. If that even makes sense, it's a twisted way of thinking, but that's just how I've always thought, and I don't understand why that is. So that is one of the major things I burnt out on, and that was something that I was kind of hoping that it would become a career sort of thing. Because I was making food blogs, I was making recipes, I was printing them, I was making AdSense money on Google AdSense on my website back in the day. That's when websites, I had websites, and I actually was able to even make maybe around $100 per month with it at first when I was updating. And I realized that once I stopped, like the AdSense dropped and everything dropped, and because that's just how things are with Google, you don't work on something, they don't pay you as much, and your views will go down. Page views. This is not YouTube. This is websites, your page views go down. So yeah, lesson learned there, or you think lesson learned there. I did a lot of other things too between that time. Would you believe that one time I tell you that I had a plushie business? Yeah, this was in the day when I used to love sewing. I was all into making plushies because I had favorite shows and I had characters I loved and nobody made plushies of those characters. So I was like, oh my god, I could be the first person to make it and it's going to sit on my shelf and it's going to be so great. So I made it and I even shared it with some friends and for some reason some people liked it. Yeah, some people liked it and eventually I got as confident as taking in some commissions based on just what I've worked on. So I did, and I took some deposits and I stressed. Yeah. There's a part of me that hate getting someone's money without providing them with what they paid for. Like if I'm selling something at eBay, I'm the type of person who the moment they pay, I'm full stress mode. I cannot do a thing until that thing is posted out, until I have the tracking number all provided, everything's all there right. Because I just need it all done. Otherwise, it's the biggest stress. Even if I have to wait till tomorrow, I am in a big panic. I am in a huge stress. And I can't even sleep sometimes because I need this thing done because it's a thing on my mind. I don't want to have your money if I'm not giving you the item, right? That's just how I am. So with this plushie business, I was like, oh my god, they paid a deposit. I got to get this right. So I was really, really stressed out. I kept stressing about how I did the shapes because plushies, they're different shapes, animals. I didn't really do humans. I did more plushies of different creatures or something cute creatures. But still, a lot of them were very hard. I didn't know how to shape some of them. I didn't know how to do things. I was really, really confused about how, like, I was just really confused about how to do certain characters. But I still took commissions. I was just stressed because they paid half the item already and I haven't even made it. And I had this queue which I couldn't handle. I was like, oh god, I have to like take their money and make them wait. Oh my god, that was to me like unthinkable. So I did like maybe a few commissions and then I was like, okay, I can't handle this. I give up. I quit. And the plushie business could have gone so far, just like my food blog. It was getting really good. See, I have the talent for it. I always knew that I have the creative talent to make a lot of things work if I can stick to it. This plushie thing is such a shame because guess what happened? I bought boxes and boxes of materials from Lincraft, that's Australian like fabric store. I remember the days I walked outside the Lincraft store with giant bags of all sorts of different fleece. You know the difference between minky, fleece, all those different frickin', what do you call those? Fabrics. And I had like so many different types and I was like, get 1 meter of that, 2 meter of that. And I had boxes full of them. And I had a sewing machine even, which I never used because I was too afraid because I didn't know how to use it and I was too afraid to use it, even though it would have saved a lot of time and effort, but I was too afraid, like I always am. Anxiety. Good old days. My poor mum. She actually helped me spend so much money on these equipments that it's just such a shame every single time. I'm just like, oh, I did this and then gave up. So that was 2 things. Overall, we've looked at 2 things. There were a lot more. There was a lot more things I burnt out on. Third thing. I don't even know if this is burning out because I never really started, so I don't know how I would even consider this, but it's another one of those situations where I felt like I was ready. I was really all ready to do it, and then some kind of stress came up and I didn't think things through and I just couldn't go ahead with it. That was like when I tried to do baby photography. It really started because I was feeling a bit guilty about not taking enough baby photography of Lucas when he was a newborn. Because of that, I felt so guilty. I was like, oh god, I need to buy so much like props and clothing so that I'm ready. And because of that, I was like, even though I bought a lot of stuff that was already too late for Lucas because he had outgrown the newborn phase. Or it was like about he was maybe like 6 or 8 months old when I realized this. So even though I bought a lot of newborn stuff, I couldn't go back in time and take those photos I wanted with Lucas. So I felt so bad about it and I kept buying more and more and more supplies, more and more equipment, more and more, like to the point where it was like almost like 16 or $1,000. It was really bad. I had like literally a garage full of props, as in clothing, bean bags, lighting, everything. Everything you can ever imagine someone would need for a photography company. Maybe more than people who've done it full time for 2 years. And then I did photography for like 2 people. They were all friends of people that we knew. They just like, I offered it for free. I was so stressed out during those 2 times. I was like, I didn't think this through. I did not realize how hard this was going to be. Oh my God. It was like, what if I can't take the right photos? What if I take crappy photos and they paid for it? See, my stress is all the same, is that I'm so afraid of disappointing people. I'm so afraid that taking someone's money and not providing the value I should offer just stresses me out a lot. So that was the thing. And fast forward 2 years later, well, that just like put a huge dent on our money situation, just seriously. Like, if I counted up all the money that I could have saved, that I wasted on things that I didn't think things through, we'd be able to afford like the biggest freaking trip, or maybe half a house or something. I don't know. That's just feels like that's how bad my stress is. And it's like at the same time I'm watching all this happen and I can't even stop it, because that's just how I've always been. And it's frustrating me so much sometimes that I'm like, why am I like this? I just want to stop being like this. And it all comes down to stress of people, stress of how people react, stress of other people, fear of people. Maybe fear and stress of people is the root cause of why I burn out. Because I'm afraid that what I do is not good enough. What I do is no longer good enough. Or if I'm taking someone's money, I'm not providing enough value for the money. That's what I'm worried about, no matter what it is. It could be like offering some kind of thing, like plushies or whatever it is. I'm just too stressed. I actually opted for making videos on YouTube because it was like didn't have to really, work for someone, if that makes sense. Even though I do have to do things for the audience, do things like, you know what I mean? Like when you're making videos, you always want to do things that people ask for and things like that. So of course that's another stress, right? It's like, I'm worried I'm not going to do as well. I'm worried that I'm going to disappoint people, I guess, is my biggest thing. And I've even burnt out before. I only started doing daily for a year, so I'm not out of the woods at all. Like, I'm not at all saying right now that I got all this figured out and I'm never burning out again. Oh, hell no. The reason why I'm making this video is because I'm starting to feel that burnout energy a little. And it's all started a few days ago. So, with making videos has been interesting because I've noticed my pattern of burning out. So I've had to do things in a sort of unique way that prevents me from burning out as much, which is I have to be more variety rather than just sticking to one topic. It's still very similar themes. Like, I'm not going to like go out of the crazy like madness and start, doing commentary videos, and I'm not gonna go really off course, but I'm still making very different type of videos. Like some days I might feel like talking, so I make a lot of talking videos. Other days I might just vlog daily life, or I might just do a gameplay. I mean, it's all different because it really depends on what I really am passionate about. But that comes with the stress also that, oh, what if people want to see one thing and I can't provide it with them? What if that? It is so stressful sometimes. It's like, I think I need to just take a breath and just realize that if I burn out, nobody's getting nothing. Nobody's getting nothing. And I need to just take care of my own needs, take care of what will work right now, and stop worrying so much about if I'm going to please this person, please that person, please this person. It's like, it reminds me of that time when I was trying to do Instagram. I was so happy to post, right? I was so excited. I've had all these photos lined up to post. I got some followers and all of a sudden I felt scared and terrified. Because I was afraid of what if I post something that pisses them off, or even though it's like the type of thing that they even sign up for. I don't know why I was so worried, but I have to really look into like maybe just past experiences. I feel like sometimes it can just be a part of your personality. It could be past experiences. It could even be childhood experiences. It could be insecurity. It can be a lot of different things that manifest in this fear of how people react or fear of disappointing people. Like if I were to, I know if I was able to just get rid of my stress and just like slide it out on my body, I would never have any issues in life, ever. I'd be able to do everything I ever wanted. Anything. And people always say to me, you are so talented, you have so many things you can do. Oh my god, you can like build things on, like you can do games where you're building so well, and you can do like artwork, because I do a lot of art as well. Like when I feel like it, I do draw on the iPad. Oh wow, you're so talented artist. Oh, you're good at cooking, you can come up with recipes, you can take photos, you can do this and this. I've gotten so much compliments about all the talents that I have. But at the same time, I feel like I can never go anywhere with anything because I just can't get through the stress, because I can't get through the fear of people. That's why I want to really go deep about this, because when you have a fear of people, it's going to be so hard for you to get anywhere, because you're always going to just fear. What if this thing people won't like? What if I'm doing this people won't like? What if I do this people won't like? What if... And then you're going to think about it logically. Like I have to tell myself loudly like this so I can actually hear it. Why does that even matter? Like why are we spending so much time worrying about things that don't even matter in the end? Because they're not going to... Like, who are these people? We don't even know these people. They're not going to have any real influence in our lives unless you become like best friends with them, which is really nice. I love becoming like really, really good friends with people who, but if it's just random people you don't know, why are we so pressured? Why? It's all part of our minds that we need to at least recognize. We need to at least know that it exists. That stress. Sometimes it helps if you go a little bit of a digger tunnel. In this little tunnel, you only see ahead. You don't see from the side. You just focus on what you're doing. But that, sometimes you just crave also talking to people. You crave that connection, which is why if you do that, you have to realize that you're going to also feel some stress at some point. It's not going to be both ways where you're just happy to chat to people but no feel any stress. You're going to have to understand that exists. And if there was something that you really want to do but you're just putting it off, is there a big reason for it? Is it because you're just afraid of how people will react? Is it because you're afraid you can't do it as well? Sometimes it's better even to not think at all and just do it without trying to think. Like there's a special technique where you can train your mind to just not think by thinking blank or thinking like, I don't know, like kind of, I think that's what meditation is for, where you're training your mind to focus on something that is not the problem that you're worried about. And that's how it works, that you can just focus on this breathing technique or this sound or whatever it is, that you're not thinking about the things that could be sending you into a spiral downhill, like the vortex icon on my computer in front of me, which is the icon of the vortex program. It just looks like it's like, that's exactly what I'm imagining. But all of this is stress. All of this, for me, burnout is stress. Burnout is fear. Burnout is worry about what people will think, what people will say. It's like, if let's say you want to do something but you're worried about how people are going to react to it, that's worry, that's stress. Then you feel like, I'm restricted in some ways. I can't do this because I might disappoint people. I might do this, I might do that, I might do this, and might do that. But then you have to think, are you going to really live true to yourself, or are you going to be slaved by what you think people want or what you think people need? You have to choose. You have to think, okay, I'm going to do this. I might disappoint people. It may not be what people want, but I'm going to do it anyway. Who cares if whatever happens? You know, it doesn't really matter. You just try it, and like, you don't have to get it right. I'm struggling all the time to figure out what is going to make people happy and stuff, you know. It's like, you just have to try. You just have to just try to like do what I mentioned just now, and just like not think about the stress, but think about the vision in front of you, and that is just to do the things that make you happy right now. And if something is, I don't know, giving you a lot of stress or making you feel like you're not enjoying it, just really think about why that is. And sometimes it comes down to just maybe just stress. It really is. Like, besides the fact that sometimes you may have just found something more exciting that you're doing that is new, that is fresh, because we're always looking for something new to experience. I feel like for me, I'm always looking for something new to experience. I don't like doing the same things a lot. I don't enjoy doing the exact same thing. I always like to do new things. So if I'm doing something too long for the same way, I get really tired and bored, and I want to do something new. So it's always fun to like spruce up your things and add new things to it. Don't keep it the same all the time. I feel like you need to be excited about what you're doing. If you're not even excited, how are you going to continue, right? How are you going to continue the longevity if you're not even excited because you're sick of it, because it's the same thing? There's so many reasons why we might burn out, but one of the most important thing is to treat the root cause of it. Not just, I feel burnout, I'm just gonna like, I don't know, take a break for a week or so. Well, that's actually a good thing. Maybe sometimes you need to take a year break or 3, and then you might come back to it when you feel like it. Because that happens. Like, that happens a lot to me where I'm burnt out with something. I just say, okay, I can't do it at all right now. I just quit altogether. And maybe that motivation will come back eventually. That's happened to me a lot of times when it comes to different hobbies that I enjoy. And I'm thinking like a lot of it is because sometimes I just care too much about what people think. I kind of neglect my own needs and just try to please people as much as possible, to the point where I'm stressed out too much, and then I burn out. Because your body is going to handle the stress so well until it gets to a point where it's like, you're overstressed. Yeah. Nah. Quit. So that's what happens to me, is like, I can handle stress until it reaches this point where I'm like, nope, no more. And then I suddenly quit everything. I quit cold turkey. And then it's like, I go from doing it 150% to 0 or -10. I don't even know how that was possible. But that's just how things are. And I'm just like, it'd be really nice if I knew how to control my stress or to deal with it before I reached that stage, so I don't just work all this crazy stuff and then just quit. Because imagine, like, when you have all this talent, imagine if you could be the hare. I mean, no. No, I'm the tortoise. The tortoise in the hare and the tortoise, not the hare. You don't want to be like the hare. The hare would just like fall asleep halfway through. Imagine if you could be the tortoise in the hare story. And slow and steady you do it, and you don't, try to do too much. Like, like, when you're excited, you should be able to do as much as you want. But the thing is, you shouldn't say, just because I've been doing this quick, and I've been doing this much, and I've been doing it this quickly, and that I should always do it that way. I can't take time and slow down when I feel like it. I feel like a lot of times we get into that mindset, we've been doing things like this pace, we have to keep it up. And that just leads to more burnout, because you're going to run out of ideas. There's so much ideas a creative person can have when it comes to creating a piece of work of some kind. When it comes to think of that, I'm thinking like creating art, creating videos, creating whatever that you're creating. It could be creating recipes, it could be creating plushies, it could be really anything. Creating pieces of ceramics even. I've never tried that, but everything's similar. Like, we will burn out because we don't have infinite ideas, because we're gonna eventually run out. When we're trying so many ideas, it's going to run out, because you're gonna just feel so tired that, oh, I can't think of ideas, or even I do, it's like so much work and everything, you just don't have the motivation. So that's when it's really important time to try to take it slow, to just give yourself a break, but not tell yourself that, oh, just because I'm taking a break, it's all over. Oh, it's like, this is it. Like, because that's what I do a lot. And sometimes it's like, I just need to hear it, that it's okay to take a break, and I'm not going to screw myself over, and life is not going to be over. I just need to hear that, even if it's out of my own mouth. It helps. That's why I'm saying this, because it helps, just hearing it out loud. Because a lot of times I feel like our brains are just too dramatic. It's like, oh no, you're gonna quit. You're gonna quit for a day. Oh no, that means you're quitting altogether. Oh, you may as well just quit altogether then. That's just, I don't know why our minds think that, but that's just what I've had to deal with a lot of times. So, but anyway, one of the ways I kind of try to do my best with this video thing, not burning out, is to just follow my interest kind of thing, where I'm making videos on things that I'm passionate about. Even that can be stressful, because I'm like, oh, what if I'm no longer passionate about something that I've already done a lot of, or people might expect it or something? What if that happens? And I have to think that, okay, I could just take a break. Maybe I can come back to it when I feel like it. For example, the podcast. I have a podcast called Mindset Matters. That's a very, very good example of one where I just do at my own pace. I started the podcast when I had a lot of things to say. I always try to, because I like long podcasts to listen to, so I always feel like, okay, the podcast needs to be longer than 40 minutes or 30 minutes, at least 30 minutes. 40 or more is the ideal time frame, but I always want it to be very, very long. And because of that, it is pressure, right? You got to actually talk for 40 minutes without stopping. And I'm like this, I don't want to edit my videos if I'm talking so long, because I can't stand like listening to my own speech for 40 minutes every day. So I don't really like to edit them. So I put even more pressure on myself, that I have to keep talking for 40 minutes without stopping and freaking screwing up my words and sounding like a total idiot, which comes with a lot of practice. Like, I think I've gotten better with it. But it also leads to burnout, because there's going to be a time where I'm like, I just can't think of more things to babble about. Like, I can't think of things to say. Well, I think I've exhausted every single thing I ever could talk about. And that's how I feel with the podcast. So I'm like, yeah, screw the podcast. So I just stopped for a long time. I think I stopped for like at least 2 or 3 months, I think. So the podcast just left there. It's a good thing I don't have like 10 channels for different interests, because I probably deserted 9.5 by now. But I think it was a good thing that I did, because I stopped when I felt like I wasn't able to come up with anything. And now that when I'm going through something, sometimes ideas or things will just come back and I'll feel like doing it. So I can just do a lot, and then I could take more breaks when I feel like it. Do more, take more breaks, do more, take more breaks. It's always really, really helpful. But it's very, very good that I decided to stop when I didn't feel like it. Because if I had said to myself, oh, I have to do this podcast every single week, I have to do it. If I don't do it, then my thing is all over. If I had said that to myself and I forced myself, even though I didn't feel like it, I probably would quit the podcast altogether by now. But I didn't, because recently I just recorded another 5 episodes or something, because I suddenly had things to say, because things were happening. So that's a really important lesson to learn, is that, okay, you're doing something. Like, you don't have to do it all the time. I mean, if people enjoy it, that's great. But just remember, it's not the end of the world if you're not doing it, okay? You don't want to stress yourself out so much that you don't want to do it for good. You just want to not do it for a few weeks or so. And it feels like it's either one or the other sometimes. So it's very important to just realize that. Yeah, but what should you do when you're feeling the burnout? I tend to want to do other things, but I also feel like I need to be self-disciplined in a way to continue because there were spurts of time when I was really into doing something else that I didn't want to film, or didn't want to do this or didn't want to do that. I was really into one thing and I just didn't want to do anything else. But I feel like kind of breaking that and just doing a little bit, even if you're not feeling it, is very important. Because it's like you just sometimes need that discipline. Even if it's 10, 20, 30 minutes, not a very much of the day, even if it's painful to break away from what you're really passionate about this moment to do the thing that you used to be passionate about that is becoming more like work, it's still important because you're at least keeping up the discipline. I think you're still at least working on a bit, or go like, oh, you know what, this is something. So I do really love the concept of document everything. So that's really cool because you kind of film what's happening. So whatever's happening, you're filming. So that's much easier to film than, oh, I have to create this thing. I have to do this. I have to create this scenario. I have to create this. Even if I'm not feeling up to it, that can be very difficult. So documenting is really powerful. I do think that has changed my life in many ways, because I don't think I'd be able to do anything if I didn't document a lot of times, because things just sometimes happen and I feel like it needs to be shared, and that's fine. That's fine. So anyway, so all my lessons, I think the most important lesson that I've learned is to realize that a lot of the stress is self-inflicted. It's not like someone's coming to my door going, if you don't make this every week, you're screwed. It's all in my head. So I have to just keep reminding myself and keep listening to things that can remind me physically, to the point where I could eventually change my way of thinking. So that's what I'm going for, is to eventually change the way I'm thinking. It's not something that you can just think away. It's not something you can just switch off. I understand that. That's very hard. It's not something I could ever do. But if we can hear enough telling our mind against it, like challenging our mind against this idea, then maybe eventually we can listen in our own subconscious crazy ways, and maybe then we won't burn out as much. So yeah, deep diving into all my burnouts. Something I always wanted to do, and I finally did it today because I was like, I'm feeling a bit burnt out, so I need to just talk about it. And that's the perfect way. It's like, that reminds me, a friend of mine and I were all like, you know, we always get motivated to do things, but then we lose motivation really quickly. So we were like, oh, well, let's make a course about motivation. So we were all excited, like, planning all this stuff. 3 weeks later, it's like, weren't we gonna like make a motivational course? And then we're like, what motivational course? Like, imagine the face. Yeah, that's not a good example, but yeah, just a funny thing that happened. So when it comes down to burnout, think of how we can handle the stress better, and just don't give ourselves so much like, have to do it this way or else. Give ourselves more freedom to create the way you want to. So hopefully that helps. I don't know. It's like rambling for like 35 minutes or so. Hopefully this is somewhat helpful to anyone who's ever felt like they're burnt out on things. And let me know what you've burnt out on. I'm very curious. And tell me how you've been able to overcome it.